My name, Abba Father, you know me, you know my name. Abba Father, you know me, you know my name. You know my name, oh Daddy, yeah. You know me, you know my name. I can see your hand in my life. Lord, I see your love upon me. Every time I look around, now you are the see. Every time I turn around, now you are the view. I dey hear your voice in my heart. Lord, I feel your love over me. Every time I look around, now you are the see. Every time I turn around, now you are the pillow. Abba Father, you know my name. Papa, you know me. Yeah. Yelele, 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 yelele. Yelele, 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 yelele. Yeah, yeah. Jesus, your love, now oh. My master, your kindness, now wonder oh. Every time I look around, now you are the sea. Every time I turn around, now you are the view. Jesus, you say I be a picking no. Jesus, you say your love go cover me. Every time I look around, now you are the sea. Every time I look around, now you are the pillow. Abba Father, you know me, you know my name. Abba Father, yeah. You know me, you know my name. Papa, you know my name, oh. Hey. You know me, you know my name. Yelele, 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 yelele. Yelele, 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 yelele. Yeah, yeah. Abba Father, you know me, you know my name. Abba Father, you know me, you know my name. Papa, you know my name, oh. You know me, you know my name. Yelele, 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 yeah.
Yes. Thank you very much, Reverend Sama, for coming back into the program, Our History, our Amba History. And remember that in our Amba History, we always welcome you and some other very, very important Ambazonians who understand our plight to come and share something with us. Greetings to everyone at home and abroad, and to those of you who have taken interest in Amba history. Today is Wednesday, the 10th of August, 2022, and the time in Boya right now is 5 p.m. And in the next 5 minutes, we will be bringing to you our special guest for today, who has something to tell the Ambazonian people about our Amba history, in the person of Barrister Timothy Beseha. Maybe if I've not pronounced the name very well, he is an adult and he is of age. He'll be able to talk for himself. But before then, let's get back to the studios and ask Reverend Sama to come up again and tell us how our Father loves us. And immediately after that, we will be receiving one of our sisters who will remind us of when we remember and when you should remember. Reverend, please, can you come back into the studios?
Yelele, 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 oh,
Okay. Um, Reverend Summer says he calls it quit for now. All right, Reverend, thank you very much for coming in and helping us to that end. We will now want to go over to our sister, if she is there, so that she can drill us again with when I remember. And definitely, immediately you remember, please do not hesitate. Arise and get the into your remembrance, and let God knows that you do remember, and yes, of course, you do remember what He has done. And as you remember what He has done, you will team up with the Ambazonian people to tell the people that He is in charge and He is involved, and that nobody should be discouraged as a result of the propaganda that the enemy has put up there and is putting up there. All right, please come in.
Rejoice and declare, hallelujah.
Sorry, I'm not cutting her. Ladies and gentlemen, people of Ambazonia, 21 gun salute to you once again. While our sister is bringing to us that tune, I want you to invite others. The phone number is there on board. In the next 2 minutes, Barrister will be coming in to tell us what he knows and what he has. And this is just the beginning of what is going to be happening here whenever he has that time to give us and educate us even at this time. And so, sister, I've taken 1 minute. I'm adding you 1 more minute. And so, Barrister will be coming in exactly 6 minutes past the hour of 5. Thank you very much. And the goodness of the Lord is something to be remembered. Ambazonians have come to realize and to understand that it is no other person but the Lord that has kept us this far. If not La République, France, what do I say? Yeah, La République through France would have dealt with us. and they would have taken over everything that is ours. But thank God, thank God. Now, Barrister Timothy is coming in immediately. Now it's exactly 6 minutes past the hour of 5 p.m. in Ambazonia. And I say greetings once again to all of you joining. And please share the link, share the link, share the link. Invite people to listen so as to be educated and know where we stand. Barrister, good morning and sorry, good evening and welcome to ABC. This is ABC TV, the national TV of Ambazonia, broadcasting from Boya, our capital, though in the diaspora. So we say good evening.
Thank you. Thank you very much for inviting me. Thank you for sharing my views. And I think my views will be historically fact. Maybe there will be some errors, but I believe what I give out here will be historically factual and verifiable. And I can only hope that most of us, especially the younger generation, will have something to learn out of this. It is good to set the record straight. It is good for us to know what we are, what we were, and where we're heading to. Thank you once more for inviting me. I hope to do my best to give all the information that I have. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much, Barrister. You know, I fondly tell people that I am not a learned friend as the learned barristers, but I am an educated friend. So when a learned friend meets with an educated friend, there is no fear. And so I have confidence that you are going to give to the people of Ambazonia not propaganda, but the truth. Because many people, especially the Ambazonians of the intellectual group, have gotten into intellectual dishonesty, that they will not tell the people the truth. And so your speech is already sending a signal to the people of Ambazonia that you are a real Ambazonian, in the sense that you say what you are going to say. Maybe you are not very perfect. That is consciousness for an average honest Ambazonian. And what more? If all Ambazonians could come to that assertion, I am sure that John Gute will not be telling the lies he just told a few days ago, yesterday, that are parading the social media about Ambazonia. Anyway, that aside, Barrister, I invited you here because we are on Amba history, and our history has come a long way. I would not suggest that you go back to the 1953 and the 1961s and so on, but feel free and take it anywhere. What we want to know from you is, where is Ambazonia coming from and where was Ambazonia? So this is a kind of a compound question or a compound thought that I would like you to share with the Amazonian people in a nutshell. And remember, you have 50 minutes to talk about this.
Well,
When you talk, you take your breath, and then we'll go ahead to ask you some few questions. All right, thank you.
sure.
Over to you.
I wish I had 30 days, but I will do everything to pour out something within 30 minutes, within 50 minutes. You see, history is not about being a lawyer. You don't need to be a lawyer to know history. All what you need to know to know history is to be inquisitive, to be able to find out, and in the case of Ambazonia, to be able to read, because much of what we will say here is actually documented somewhere where anybody who is inquisitive can find it, especially today. You can find a lot of things on Google. You don't need to go to New York to go to a library to find it. So it's about being inquisitive. And those who are not inquisitive, there are two classes of people. People who are intellectually dishonest are there, and people who are intellectually stupid are also there. And then there's a class of people who are politically influenced by the facts they give out. So when the politician is telling you a story, they tell you from the political perspective that they stand on. And that's why you should read Mr. Diangute's outings. He's talking politics, he's talking the language of politicians, he's talking the language of the political party for which he stands. He's not telling you history, no. He's giving his opinion based on his own political inclinations. That said, let us go back. You see, there's no way you can tell the history of Ambazonia without looking back, because Ambazonia, which we call Ambazonia, is a product of history, or a product of the First and the Second World War, 1914 and 1945. First, backwards, we must remember that there was nothing like Cameroon until the Germans came in. And if we remember 1884, what they called the scramble for Africa was the scramble of the colonialists of the West, of the European, of the West, of the Europeans from the West to occupy territory. Their sole goal was economic. It was born out of the Industrial Revolution. They needed raw materials, they needed labor to feed their industries. And that's how it started. So from the beginning, we were a toy for marketing. And so in 1884, we formed part of what they call the German area of Africa. It lasted just from 1884. They call it sphere of influence. Lasted until the First World War, just about 30 years after. And it fell because Germany, the main master of that territory, of that area of influence, was defeated by the joint forces. And so they seized all their territories that were in Africa, their markets, call it. And this included Cameroon, which was spelled with K. It included Namibia, that we have today. It included Tanganyika, which has become Tanzania. It included Togo, which we still have today. And so we became part of it because as when we were sharing the war spoils in 1919 after the defeat of the Germans, they said, okay, what do we do with this territory to Cameroon? Cameroon, like other German territories, was shared to the victorious powers. In this instant case, those who were there, the French and the British. And so the British took the West, a smaller part, which shared a boundary with Nigeria, which became the British Cameroons. In fact, it was called British Cameroon, not Cameroons. It was just simply British Cameroon. In other words, Cameroon under British administration. But this was 19, they put the boundary in 1919 between East Cameroon, French Cameroon, and British Cameroons. The boundary was actually planted in 1919. And some of the boundary marks are still there right now as we speak. And so fast forward, the boundaries put then did not change. But the League of Nations that was formed at the end of the First World War did not last long. It just lasted for the period of the First World War from 1920 something to 1945, when the Second World War also ended. But it did not change our status. Instead, under the United Nations League of Nations, which was created after the First World War, we became a mandated territory entrusted to UK, the United Kingdom, to administer. But in 1946, after the First World War, after the Second World War, we ceased to be a mandated territory, but we still remain under Britain. And we are now called a trust territory. A trust of the United Nations organization that was created then. Under the trust, they had a specific definition. What were we trying to achieve? What was the United Nations trying to achieve with the trust? They signed written agreements with France, with Great Britain, and other countries, that were given territories to administer. For example, Belgium, you find something we call today Rwanda that will amount so much. Rwanda and Urundi, which have become Burundi, were also German colonies. Were also German colonies, but these ones were ceded to Belgium. And so, if you look at the history, you find Rwanda, Urundi. The Belgians had to administer that part too. And so, fast forward back to Ambazonia, the British Cameroon remained now a trust territory as a United Nations trust territory on to be administered by the UK, the United Kingdom. But under that agreement, which was signed on the 13th of December 1946, the same agreement was signed with France, the same agreement was signed with Belgium, the same agreement was signed with the UK. It stated clearly the purpose for the trusts. They were to administer the trusts, one, with the hope, with the vision of taking them to full independence or self-determination in the default of independence. But they were also allowed, those administrators, they were also allowed under that agreement for the purpose of administration only to administer the territory with their adjoining territories. That's how Southern Cameroon, British Cameroon, became now divided into two. And the word Cameroons came in now because there was now Northern Cameroon to be administered with Kaduna in the north of Nigeria, and Southern Cameroon to be administered from Enugu in the south. That's how we got the name Southern Cameroons. But the goal was the same. They were to lead these territories, whether it is Burundi, Rwanda, Burundi, whether it is Namibia, whether it is Togo, territories were to be administered for the purposes of self-determination or independence as per Article 76B of the United Nations Charter. It is written there in black and white. All of us can read it. And so that was the goal. And so back to what we call Ambazonia today, which was then called British Southern Cameroons. I've explained why Cameroons now, because there were now two Cameroons, one Northern Cameroon, the other one Southern Cameroon, and then there were now two British Cameroons. And so what we're dealing with now is what became British Southern Cameroons, which we know cover the 13 counties. In those days, in the British days, there were 6 divisions in all, but they have multiplied by 2 and they become counties. And so that's what we call today Ambazonia. But what happened? Let us go to why there's this war that we're fighting. You see, we talked about intellectual dishonesty, intellectual stupidity. This is we have to analyze. When the 1960s were coming, the nation bent, granting all non-governing territories independence. So it was the fast track thing. Let everybody have his independence and work. The United Nations was not interested in army territories as trust territories. They wanted everybody to get away by having its own independence and running its own affairs. And so that was the fast forward. It started from 1958, 1959. You find, if you go to United Nations records, you find so much there, resolutions taken left and right. Okay, it came to Southern Cameroons. In fact, it came to Cameroons under UK. Since everybody was getting independent, Nigeria had to get its independence on 1st of October 1960. Cameroon under Southern independence 1st of January 1960. So what was to happen to British Cameroons? They had to decide at the level of the United Nations. But for them to decide, they had to depend on who was the administrator. The UK, the United Kingdom, they had been administering us since 1922. So what is their opinion? This comes now, the dishonesty, I wanted to say intellectual dishonesty. The British that British Southern Cameroon, British Cameroons, administered separately, one in the north and one in the south. That these entities could not have independence on their own, have resources to maintain themselves. Again, the economic factor that brought colonialism into play. We didn't have money. If we didn't have money to run our own affairs, we will go back after money. So based on this their belief, which was intellectual honesty, they didn't even know much about Cameroon that barely set foot there. They didn't know much about us. What they were doing in the British Cameroons was tax farming. They let people chiefs taxes. That's all about our resources. So they wrote this thing that these people could not have independence, administer themselves economically. And therefore, they came out with theory independence by being. They say to survive, they have to join with reliable. That's the definition of independence by being. I call it an invention. Because all the trust territories are mandated, mention some of them. No other administrator invented independence by joining other than Britain. So independence by joining went and it applied to United Kingdom and Togo because divided Togo land. Togo, that was part of the German colony. It was divided between France and Great Britain. And so this of independence by joining for economic reasons. But that was not even the end. The British said, look, they should have their own by joining somebody, but they will not be decided as a unit. They want them in two separate plebiscites. Whether they would like to get independent by joining this British Southern Cameroon now, other Nigeria, the Republic of Cameroon. This is a separate plebiscite. In the plebiscite again, they will ask to call Northern Cameroon. We would like to have independence joining the Republic of Nigeria or the Federal Republic of Nigeria, which was not yet independent, or the Republic of Cameroon. So they invented two plebiscites for a single that have been interminister. This is where we find intellectual dishonesty at work. Then, under this basis, they organized what they call a plebiscite in 1961, 11th of February 1961. But before the plebiscite took place, something happened. The United Nations itself, in the General Assembly, discovered that this was not the right thing. Something was rare. They had decided on the plebiscite in 1959. In 1960, they came out and said, look, something is going wrong somewhere. This independence by joining is not the right thing. They came now December 1960, 14 December, and position 1514. The United Nations General Assembly. With that, every country, every people who have not had their independence granted their independence, notwithstanding their population size, notwithstanding the educational level, notwithstanding the economic position. So this was before the plebiscite. It was in December 1960. Based on this, there would have been no plebiscite anymore, having resolved that every country should be given its own independence or self-determination, notwithstanding economic power, notwithstanding the educational level, notwithstanding their population size. That would have ended the thing. But it did not end. Because, of course, remember that we were not in the United Nations. Again, under the British manipulation, they say, well, we have already put out a plebiscite, let us go along with it. Next day, the United Nations General Assembly passed another resolution, 1541 now. And said, if they must be independent by joining, the conditions under which join, they lay out the conditions. People should maintain their institutions, among others. They should be independent first, then they can join later. They put out all these guidelines. This was the nation's talk again, not respect. Because come now one now for the plebiscite. If you look at the what we call the resolution 1608, it's all these resolutions of the United Nations, British Southern Cameroon and Northern Cameroon. But not in the preamble of the 1608, there's nothing mentioned of 14 or 1541. They left it out. Again, we were not there. What was still left out? Only Britain, which were champions at the United Nations, can explain. Again, this is gross dishonesty on the administrators. Again, still there, they had conducted a plebiscite. Whether we were going to get independence by Nigeria or French Cameroon. The questions were clear. Do you wish to obtain independence? It was a wish. It was not getting independence. It was a wish to obtain independence. So the plebiscite was not independent. It was a wish to obtain independence. That wish should have ended there. It would not be where the plebiscite would require the nation to acknowledge our wishes. And then came now 1961, April 21st. After meeting for days, the passed resolution 1608, which did other things. Talked about the plebiscite in Northern Cameroon. They had voted to get in by joining as a separate province. Take note of the separate province. Then they said Southern Cameroon had voted to join. They didn't put in what capacity. Because by then, Cameroon had not yet determined, in fact, they had not agreed to join with us. No, joining you. We don't want any joining. They voted no to resolution 8. Again, that should have ended the matter. Because you're a pastor, who is going to marry? And then the man says, I'm not marrying that man. And you go on with the marriage. It's not possible. Once United Cameroon voted no to resolution 68, which were consolidating that of a union, a future union with would have ended the matter. But again, intellectual honesty did not end. They continued imposing a future union with the Republic against their wishes. They voted no, they didn't want it. Through all the documents I've looked as I wish. I've not what authority the United Nations General Assembly document in there to compare Republic, which was already in the to have a, with British Southern, which was not yet independent. There's no text, there's no law, there's no in the United Nations Charter where the union two unwilling partners. So nonetheless, they say, okay, you must unite. But they did not even say, okay, but before you unite on first, set the date. But can get independence 1st June 1961 by Nigeria as a separate province. Southern Cameroon was sent to become on 1st of October 1961. The French-speaking Cameroon. I say if, because 1608 that was putting all these stories had 1608 we stated clearly that as a matter of urgency, the government of Cameroon Republic, the government of British Southern Cameroon, government of and I had the details of the meeting, of the joining, the fine print on the. Are you going there as what? Why did they need these three? French speaking Cameroon was already independent, the foreign minister, they had the power to do anything. British was not independent. Yes, we had an assembly in Boya, we had a premier, we had a government there. But our government did not have the right to commit to foreign affairs. It was dealing with the foreign country. We didn't have that power. Funchal didn't have the power to deal with foreign affairs. Funchal didn't have the power to raise an army, the government in Boya. Britain had to be there because they were the tutorial masters, they were still our people. If they were not there was nothing they could do for commit itself in a foreign policy thing. And so Britain was not there. So those who have been talking about Fumban, there was no full nothing prevented somebody going to drink a kwacha with somebody in Douala. But that was not an agreement. They could socialize, they could talk. They could talk. They're like, I mean, in northern Nigeria, I mean, nothing prevented somebody from going across the top with his brother who had gone to Nigeria. But they could not commit. So was Fumban was illegal as far as this union is concerned because Britain was not there. The government could not commit itself to doing it. Again, the United States intellectuals they didn't say from the huge was a minister government of Southern Cameroon, the government of La République du Cameroon, the government of UK. They said government, not individuals. So whatever drink Funchal went to drink in Douala or Yaoundé with Ahijo was not the government. So this is what Fumban is. Fumban was not the right thing. It did not exist. Because it did not exist, the fine prints of whatever thing was projected as a union was never ironed out, and therefore, at law, there was no union. What led call Jumamare. You take somebody's daughter, keep her in your house, make 20 children with her. That does not 20 children don't become a marriage certificate. You're not married her. If you died and they were sharing property, there's in law property to be shared. But there's something that goes to legitimate children and something that goes to illegitimate children. So there was no marriage. And again, intellectual dishonesty. I've quarreled with even our own brothers and sisters who are supposed to be intellectuals. If you go through all the United Nations records that we can find, you are not going to find something called reunification anywhere. It is called unification. But go through the documents that come out of Yaoundé and their supporters. You are not going to find anything called unification. They talk of reunification. They talk of reunification, which is what they bought from the UPCs. But they are so intellectually dishonest that they will not say they bought this idea from the UPCs. The UPCs were clamoring for unification before independence. What was their focus? They were 50,000 Cameroons. They forgot that part of it had gone to Central Africa, some have gone to Gabon, but they were focusing on us. And they were arguing that we should reunify before independence comes, whatever date. But unfortunately for them, they did not prevail because the 13 December Agreement of 1960 did not contemplate a reunification of the divided territories, be it Togo, be it Rwanda, or Burundi, or Namibia. Now, they have been partitioned, they were to go separate ways permanently. So, but
So
you
one
find all
moment,
the.
just one moment.
Yes.
That reunification that they were clamoring about, was it only for the British Southern Cameroons, or Togo and all these other countries that I've mentioned were also involved in the clamoring for the reunification?
No, only Cameroon, only the UPCs.
Okay,
They were
okay,
struggling for independence in East Cameroon, had this
okay.
vision. But remember, the chunk of German territory that went to Central African Republic, to Gabon, maybe to
Mhm.
Chad. They were not as big as the chunk that went to Great Britain. So the
Okay.
UPCs who were talking about a united Cameroon before independence, they were the only one that was in uh, in Togo. They divided Togo land between France, and we had British Togo land and French Togo land. France granted independence to French Togo land, which they call Togo, with the capital May. Great Britain refused to grant independence to its own British Togo land. They also, for them to choose to get independent, either by joining their territory, Ghana, the bigger territory, or by joining French Togo land. And they succeeded in getting that place to become part of Ghana. So, to answer your question, the Cameroon,
Oh,
but
we are missing you there. We are
they
missing
failed
you there.
because first of all, to get independence.
Well, it appears you are frozen. Can you hear me?
I'm getting you. Yeah, I get
Okay,
you
go
very
ahead.
well.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Ah, so I was saying that, unfortunately for them, us, fortunately for us, the UK have their way because they have no way legally. They acceded the territory to France and to the UK. The 13th, the December 13th, 1960 and 1940 did not contemplate a reunification of the divided territory, be it Poland, be it Cameroon, or anywhere else. It did not. And as I said, in fact, they could go there. Today you have Rwanda. Rwanda and Burundi were with the Belgians. They ended up with two different countries. Today you have Burundi. You have Rwanda, which you had Rwanda. Then they separated them and gave them two different independent days in 1961, 1962. So that did not work. It has not worked. And so fast forward to where we are. This is where we are. Again, intellectual dishonesty. Let me go back to what you talked about young Kute. Kute is not a treatment. It's an intellectual, just in law. So again, they are doing political language talking. You just go back when this crisis started. Young Kute told us he went to Bamenda. If people still have those records of his speech there, they will say what the people want full independence. It is record there. The people want their full independence. It is record there. If you have that TV, you hear it there. You think that people were just mad? Not mad. Prime ministers, politicians don't just talk, they write down their speech. They are checked, they are verified. He said the people want their independence. Not of his paymaster, which is the language of the CPDM, language absorption. And so that is it. So it is this British Southern Cameroon that has become, which we still refer to on record as British Southern Cameroon. Yes,
Okay.
for now we call ourselves Ambazonia. We have the right in future to change the name to anything that we want.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, sir. Just take a breath. Don't go away yet. Uh, ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to a seasoned Ambazonian, Barrister Timothy Beseha, if I'm pronouncing the name well. Yes, and he is giving to us the background of where we are coming from and what befell us when all the African countries were released to have their independence. Formerly, we thought that that French Cameroon had had their independence. It's now we are discovering that whatever game and whatever spirits transpired in the United Nations to send us to make a choice of joining a nation that was not yet independent is a mystery. But this generation has come out to demystify all that had happened in the past. And as we are talking about intellectual dishonesty, which is very, very typical with the some Ambazonian people, because they are very, very honest, very, very intellectual. We can't talk about La Republique because their game is corruption and embezzlement. That's what they know best. They pay for children to pass exams from class 2 to class 3, then pay to go right to secondary school. Then when they are writing GCE, they pay for the children to pass. Then they pay for them to go to ENS. They pay for them to go to the administrative school in Yaoundé. I don't know how they call it. And then when they come out, they know that everything is pay. And that's why they cannot administer, because they have not been trained. Their training has been embezzlement, their training has been lies, their training has been so. And any honest Ambazonia who joins with them fulfills the historical portion of the book I am reading, which says that evil communication corrupts good manners, which also says that being equally yoked with thieves, with people who are dishonest, you become very dishonest. Now, we are fast forwarding, and as I told you, he has just laid the foundation of where we are coming from. On several occasions, we'll have to bring him back here to talk to us about these current events that are burning into and turning into history in the Ambazonian quest for their freedom, which I want to ascertain here and say that it has been given. And some dishonest people amongst us, like what I'm going to ask him now to talk about, to comment, because it's still very fresh in the minds of most Ambazonians, are behaving and trying to draw us back. Now, let's come back home, Barrister. Your points have been taken into very serious consideration and put in place. But I want to find out one thing that you mentioned, that the British Southern Cameroons the only country that was given this option of making a choice of joining a neighbor that was purportedly said was independent, or were there other countries in Africa that were given these options?
In 1946, after the Second World War, when they were creating this so-called United Nations Trust Territories were all over the world. Samoa, British Samoa, and so on. So they were all trust territories. But on record, only trust territories that were ever offered this option of independence joining British Cameroons, North and South, and British Togoland. That's why I always the British independence. There's no other place that the plebiscite in the joining particular existed. No. Trust territories, they all evolved into independence. I've mentioned Burundi, I've mentioned Rwanda, I've mentioned Namibia. So under Britain, they were given the option to get independence by joining. And those mentioned the Britain, the master, they thought that even the opportunity, we were going to vote to get independent by joining their bigger territory, Nigeria, on which it depended. So too, they thought that the small Togoland, British Togoland, would vote to join Ghana, and they did. So that was a hidden agenda. That's why even after the 1960 December 16, 15, 14, and 51, they bring it there in the 2000 and in the 1608. Did not bring it there again. Remember, we were not there. Southern Ghana was not part of the United Nations. Oh, everything was debated by UK on our behalf. French can vote any nation, and then they had the vote there and listen, and they voted. So in Africa, our country is the only one, one of the two, British Cameroon, which is between North and
Okay.
South, and Togoland. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. The next question, when you were talking, I wanted to find out from you, where did this joining for independence come from? Is there any charter in the UN that mentions about joining in order to become independent anywhere, or is a phrase that was formulated by who?
I've already said that independence by joining was an invention of, of the UK administration. There's no
Okay.
place in the United Nations Charter that talks about independence by joining. Article 76B that talks about independence or self-nation. Doesn't talk about by joining any other person. Self is nation there. You could determine to remain part of the administration of the United Nations. British Samoa is still part of America. They have not had independence. They are an American colony. So that was never, for example, the American would have simply absorbed the Samoas and say, "Come here, you're a small country." Now, there's nothing in the UN Charter of Independence by joining. Independence is independence. That's why they declared 15 for that independence will mean independence. Like countries have the same territories have the no matter their size, no matter no matter their economy, or they should have the independence, and then they can decide to join any other person they want. Just like
Okay.
Zanzibar has independence,
Mhm. Mhm.
Tanzania independence. They join. Just like Senegal has its independence, Gambia has its independence. They decide Senegambia. They turn the British, the South
Mhm.
Africans that were administering Namibia, that absorbed Namibia as part of South.
South
The
Africa.
United Nations said no, Namibia will be
Mhm.
part of you. That's what we have Namibia today. They have their own independence.
Wow.
It's part of all the power that the South Africans exerted on South African government. The Namibia will go away. That's why until they had independence, what is the best, the deepest seaport in the East African peninsula. No one. And the South Africans said, if you want, we'll make this airport, we'll make this, we'll own it. You can take the Wavis Bay, but it didn't even work. I hope it answered your question.
Yes, you have. You have. I just wanted clearance for the Amazonian people and the people of the world who are listening to this, whether amongst the intellectuals, some of them who are dishonest, some can hear this and will reappeal in their minds to come out in honesty and stand for the people of Amazonia. That's why I'm asking the questions for repetition, which is meant actually for emphasis. Amazonian people, listen, if we come here to give this education, is to educate ourselves, to know that that land belongs to us. God gave it to us, and it is our land, and we must get it. You know, when I was growing up as a child, barrister, I never could believe that a big man can lie. I mean, something that is very clear that even a little child can touch it, but you find a big man lying about the thing. It was an abomination when when I was growing up. And so in the 21st century, where everything has been made so naked, I do not know if you actually listen to the 36 minutes, well, it should be around 20 something minutes because some other things came in. And John Gute was talking so much about Ambazonians' special status and other things like that. Mr. Barrister, may I ask you, does John Gute know that Ambazonia, British Southern Cameroons, was an entity and that the independence of the Republic of Cameroon in 1960, 1st January, Ambazonia was not involved? Does he know that? And does he know that the purported federation and joining that they have been clamoring about from 1961 up till today, that it was a farce, and that Mr. Ahijo actually said verbally that we were going to be equals? Does John Gute know that? And if he knows all this, how come that he has become so brainwashed? And who has given the Republic the powers to get a country that is equal in status and be giving them a special status? Who made them more than these other people who went to join them, if at all? We all know that there was no joining. But can somebody like John Gute from the Ambazonian side, from his own side, be talking all this kind of trash? Do you think that there is a mystical, mysterious one that is going around his head, that he's talking lies like that in the public? Over to you, sir.
I think there's one thing that you must accept. There's a saying that it is not done by us, that he who pays the piper dictates the tune. Diangute is head of a government, of something they call a government somewhere. And he's not the first. If you go, let us give other examples. In the Rhodesia, for example, which has become Zimbabwe, when the apartheid was going on there, people were fighting to end apartheid. Ian Smith found some blacks who were with him. Among them, educated people like Bishop Ebe Mozorowa in the church, Pentecostal church. You got a pastor, you have read. He became the prime minister under Ian Smith. I know that apartheid is bad. They're looking for a short course. South Africa, where the apartheid was killing, there are blacks who prefer the Bantu stance. Very educated blacks. And so Dion Gute is only one of the several. Just because he speaks. But we have so many of our own brothers and sisters over there who see everything wrong and close their eyes, provided that it benefits them economically, politically, and emotionally. That's what it is all about. As I've said, the history of Ambazonia, British Southern, is also well documented that anybody with an interest can read. I cannot for a moment imagine that the Dion Gutes, who are professors, have not read. In fact, when you get learned Francophone people, they argue this more than ourselves because they've read the same documents like you have. But what do you expect? In fact, the post of a prime minister is an appointment given to somebody. Dion Gute is only one. The same thing was given to Achide Achu. The same thing was given to Mosonge. The same thing was given to any other person. So it's not that they don't know, they know it, but because they are being paid, their paymaster general is dictating the pace, the tune that they have to play. They know it very, very well. It's not that it's not known, it is known. But Dion Gute, as you rightly asked, who gave them authority, who gave the Republic authority to give us what they want? Let us go back to it. The Plebiscite of 1961. La Republique did not vote in the Plebiscite with us. They did not influence the vote in the Plebiscite. That was our choice. They did not even have as much as the popular say, East Cameroon government, whether we should join them or not. They were dealing with Ahijo, who in as 1961 had never been elected by the country got independence without any of a president. He was never elected by anybody. So it's not the belief in at the time that these things were happening. They were denied us, they were even denied for us to join with them in the 1961, 1608. They didn't know the magnitude of the war that was under our own soil. They didn't know the strength of us. They forgot that even among the literature that were produced, even in East Cameroon, they were a Wondo people. They were the escaped to our own zone. They are going to say, Professor, one of them, people, Professor going to say, these are all Wondo people. One thing came, the positions that they occupied in Yaoundé, in the north of France, were occupied by them. They had lawyers. Their first lawyers were from us. And so, what is John Gute saying? Who gave them the authority to give us something called special status? Special to even there, take the special. What was saying that this special status has to do with education. The status permit body in the east or west to create a school. The schools are created in Yaoundé. How do you run why it did not create? He talked about education. He said special education, do something there, they will come and us. They will seek your opinion. What if you say no? No. Asking your is nothing else. So the whole thing has no meaning. And then he was talking about something he called House of Chiefs. See all the role that the House of Chiefs play. I think this is where he was. The House of British Southern Cameroon was like the Senate today. They were not just there to be consulted for chiefs issue for chieftaincy succession. No, they played the role of the House of Lords. In the British system, it was not the Senate. The British system was the House. This was the rule. What is this thing called the House of Chiefs? Appointed chiefs to sit there and do nothing. And then, of course, what interested me most was what you call the the mediator or whatever they call it there. What is that? Somebody appointed by presidential decree to go and tell the regional council you're not working well, or to go and tell Bilai, what they call him. So, how does he explain this? Yes, so soon. When we had so-called the state of West Cameroon, there was a prime minister in Boya who was supposed to he was a parliamentary role, the leader of the majority party from the government. And they was a post there called federal inspector, appointed by the president to oversee the prime minister who was elected by the people, which is what is going on now. They have a regional assembly, call it whatever thing they give it. Then, in the regional assembly, it is sitting there. They have somebody called independent conciliator appointed by the president. They have somebody called the governor appointed by the same president. That is not enough. They call appointed by the same president. That is not enough. So what's he talking about? Of all these people, he's even an Anglophone. Does his office even appoint a governor? Does his office even appoint independent conciliator? His office even appoint a prefect? So talking about. So, I mean, what I would advise John Gote, if he didn't know, is he's living in Yaoundé. Let him, if you know you're on the way, coming from Vugada, you come to Center Town, where the center post office is. If you are going across to the left to be the Minister of Education, which has moved, they later became the Minister of Youth and Sports. Before you get to that ministry, there's the statue of Shiva Tangana, the chief of the Wondos. It is standing there. This is the chief of the Wondos created by the French. Look at that statue there. Who is the chief of the Wondo? It's a Tangana wearing a khaki shirt with gallons on him. when did African chiefs start to wear gallons? And that's why it's called House of Chiefs. In that House of Chiefs, we expect people like Moja to be sitting there as chiefs.
Barrister, I think stop there. Stop there, stop there. We shall be coming. We shall come in one of the days that you are opportune. We'll come back to this place. You will give us this breakdown and analysis because that is the history I'm talking about. I'm talking about current events that are turning into history so that our people can see and come back to their senses that we are not the 1951 kind of lifestyle we were living under the British and under the colonial masters. Now, somebody just made a comment here. I want to say it before I forget. And if somebody knows John Gute, please send this to him that it has been diagnosed that he is hypnotized and acting under a spell. And that's why he went to Bamenda and openly said that these people need their freedom. But when he gets down to some other things now, he turns and talks another thing. So we want to let him know that he has been hypnotized, even if he doesn't know it, and that tomorrow on ABC, in fact, beginning today, there is a liberation prayer that we want to pray for him, for his liberation, because the people of Ambazonia believe in God Almighty to take care of where and what they cannot take care of themselves. We know that this demonic group called Isinga, when you put your hand inside there, they frighten you that once you are there, you cannot, if you try to go out, you will die. Mr. John Gute, everybody's going to die. If you can die for your people to be safe, that is good. But please stop deceiving yourself. We understand that you're under a spell. And you stand there to say we are begging the Amba boys to come out from the bushes. Are you okay? Is it not you who started with guns? You think that if you put down your guns, the Amba boys still remain in the bush? Come on here. You are an intellectual, John Gute, and you are from Ambazonia. Even though you have put up the coat of nonsense over there, we still recognize you as Ambazonia. And that's why we're going to pray for you. Now, Mr. Barrister, we are coming to the end of our program for today. And I've gotten some topics that I'm going to pen them down, and then you will come back here and then talk to the Ambazonian people on our Amba history, which is actually going to be current events that are turning into history, which are going to be recorded, either verbally or in other retrieval kind of stuff that the technology has provided for us. But at this juncture, I would like you to just give your closing remarks to the Ambazonian people and, of course, promise them that you are coming back. I will wait to hear that promise that you are coming back. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. I think my closing remarks, this is what I'm saying. Now, most Ambazonians, the Federalists, all of them, I talk to everybody. I happen to talk to almost everybody in this struggle. What the Ambazonian Federalists and Unionists fear, their greatest fear is that this journey is so difficult. People are dying. No, yeah, that's a fact. But nothing is easy in law president to illustrate what we are doing. Where is the president for what we are doing? Our case is so clear. We don't even need president about it. But if we want president, this is it. Look at Africa. Recently, we have a country called South Sudan. It broke away from Sudan. There is this thing in the United Nations Charter, the right to self-determination. You have that right if you meet the requirements. Ambazonia meets it. Why are we even dying? We do not need to die. Again, president. Not too long ago, I mean, just in the past 10 years, there was a country called Yugoslavia. It was a union of other small nations. They broke up that war. There was a country called the Soviet Union. Today you find Ukraine, they were part of the Soviet Union. They broke off without the killings. And so, we were not, in fact, the Soviet Union was even an agreement of people coming down Yugoslavia. We are not even the case. There was never any paperwork to it. What we call the constitution that the Federalists want to hang on was not even a constitution. It was a document prepared by Yaoundé and imposed on us. Our parliament in Boya never voted for it. Who gave them, who gave them the authority to prepare a constitution for British Southern Cameroon? Who are the parliament ministers? Did they vote in Boya? No. The La Republic Parliament in Yaoundé voted their amendment to their constitution. So it is not our constitution. Again, this journey, maybe people think it is too difficult. But what is more difficult than the loss of lives? We have lost more than enough lives over what we could even have died. So we cannot end this journey until we go to the end of it. I'm here unless I die. If I die, as I said, the history is so documented. I'm coming back at any time that you want me. I'll come back. And I'll be very, very willing. And I'm still willing in future. If you have anybody who wants to contradict what we're saying, they can join us on this table. And we'll have an exchange of a debate and see who is right or wrong. I have no claim to rightness. No. I have claim to facts which I think are right. Anybody who has contrary facts should come before us, educate us on his or her own facts and their sources. As simple as that. Again, I stand to be corrected if it is possible. And I still also have the right to correct people when they are wrong. Thank you for listening. Have your eyes open. No journey is so difficult to go. In fact, Christ, yeah, Pastor, Christ died. He gave his life, trying to save us, trying to save mankind, trying to tell the truth about what is salvation. Why we are already dying, we have died, and will continue to die. But salvation is on our way. Victory will reach.
Wow.
It is a question of time, and it is not over. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Barrister. Thank you for your closing words. They are very powerful, very, very powerful. And an average Ambazonian should listen to a true Ambazonian. A true Ambazonian is always repentant. And before he started this, he made a statement in his opening speech that if he is wrong, he stands to be corrected. And at the end of the speech, talking to the Ambazonian people, he has not challenging. He has called on the federalist, on the centralist, on the unionist, on the every one of them that they should come and put forth their argument. He stands still to be corrected where he is wrong. And of course, he stands to also correct and say when you are wrong. This is what Ambazonia was built of. And we still have a cream of these Ambazonians who have refused to be paid by the master so that they can pipe. And from what he is saying, from time immemorial, British Southern Cameroons went by vote. They made a choice of their leaders. Their leaders were not imposed on them like France has done to all the colonies of Africa that are speaking French. Until today, in the 21st century, they are still doing it. And then there are people who say they are educated, they have gone to school, they want their people to be free, and they are still under the yoke of bondage. Now, we are out, we are going to also report to the Ambazonian people the document that La République signed with France without our being with them in this deceitful kind of Jumba Palava that we are cutting off completely. And if the UN is true to itself, we are pleading with the UN to go back to the books. We don't want you to just hear what we are saying. Go back to your books and see where you made wrong and make correction. An honest and intellectual somebody is that individual who agrees that he can make a mistake and the mistake can be corrected. Recently, I saw a number of ministers left Boris' administration in England, in London, and of course, he had to step down. That is what it means, and that is what we, the former British guys, where we stand from. Yes, that's what Ambazonia is standing for. Once again, thank you very much, Barrister. And not too long from now, I will not want anybody to forget this train that you have started. And so I'll be calling you to come back in here as soon as possible so that we can continue with the story and our history so that the Ambazonian people can rise up to stand, because those of them who are almost trying to get discouraged by the federalists, by the Coopers, by the Unionists, by the Jongutes, and by every enablers and so on, we need to encourage them to see where we are standing. And so get ready, we shall be coming back. Thank you very much and have a good day.
Thank you too.
Yes. All right, sister, you say you want to tell us about remember. All right, go ahead when you remember. We will remember what Barrister has told us today. So just remind us.
My Redeemer and my Savior, I love you. When I remember, when I remember, when I remember, hallelujah. When I remember, when I remember, when I remember, oh yeah. When I remember, when I remember.
Yes, we are remembering, and thank God for Barrister for coming in to put his voice very loud and clear, sound and truthful to all that he has said about Ambazonia. I want to remind you, please, don't go away. Very soon, in the next 47 minutes, Reverend Dr. Victor will be here in the studios. And of course, I'm going to join him. And we are going to bring to you the hour of freedom. And the hour of freedom will base on what Diongute is deceiving the Ambazonian people. I will look into what the freedom pace setter, as Barrister has just mentioned, that Jesus Christ came to die to set us free and to give us liberty. So we'll be coming in our hour of freedom to touch some of these things, because we specially made this program today for you, the Ambazonian people. But if you are out there and you are still in bondage, get ready, because as we'll be talking, it will be crossing over to you and you will get the freedom too. All right, once again, thank you and see you very shortly. All right, our sister.
When I